Hey guys, Ben CB here. Today I'm joining Nico for his amazing bounty course. Today we're going to keep it very practical, so we will show you guys how you can analyze your own hands in bounty tournaments. But one information here up front, there aren't any tools existing yet where you can just put it in and find a result, like HRC or IC Miser for the common push or fold spots. So we want to give you some advice or also give you some hints and tools how you can find it out by yourself. But it's going to be a bit more complicated. It's going to be a bit more messy. So don't expect that magic pill. We give you one equation, you just enter the numbers and then you just have to do it by yourself. You need a lot of information such as field size, amount of players that are remaining, of course, stack size, bounty, the amount of bounty the player you're playing against, also how much money is in the bounty price pool left, in order to find out what range we can call or what range we can go all in with. Again, as Nico was explaining in the theory videos, we were just making assumptions simply because it's not possible for a computer in these days to make such a huge calculation. All right, so
Yeah, hey.
hi Nico.
Okay, so this is a spot in a $500 bounty tournament on Party Poker. We are sitting in a big blind, have a rather bad hand, and the cutoff jams. And the question is now, depending on his bounty, which range we can call. So if his bounty is star bounty, which range we can call, and how big should his bounty be so that we can essentially call any two. And let us first start with the calculation if this wasn't a bounty tournament. So we have to assume a range which he jams, and we will look at which range we can call. And first of all, let's just calculate the odds which we are getting. So the odds are 1.48 to 1. And we did prepare a little Excel sheet for this certain spot. And when we get 1.4 to 1.48 to 1, then our equity is 1 divided by 1 divided by 1 plus 1.48. So our required equity is 40.3%. And yeah, Ben, maybe let's talk about the jamming range, which you would assume. So I will open the holding resources calculator just for the range, which we can
Yeah,
assume, and you maybe talk about this. So
I would,
this is the spot.
yeah,
Sorry, I just
assuming
opened
that
the
it's a
spot.
bounty tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that situation, I mean, he has to be aware of the fact that um, we will call hands. We have to call hands like 8-7 suited. So his range should be rather high cut heavy. He definitely wants to jam a hand like Queen 5 suited instead of 6-5 suited, right?
Yeah.
So I think I would start from 30%. Can we start with 30% range and looks
Sure.
how it see how it looks like. I think that looks quite. I think also King 4, King 3 suited, King 2 suited will be jammed very frequently. Also Queen 8 suited, I think. Yeah, Queen 8 suited, I think 100%. Um, Jack 10 off. Jack 10 off is actually not as strong as in a normal freeze out, simply because we are going to call a hand like Queen 2 suited or Queen 8 off. Um, yeah, I would still say that most people jam a hand like Jack 10 off. So like, um,
Let's wait at like 80% something.
yeah, I
Okay.
would also, even though I think it's not good, but I think people still do it way too often in bounty tournaments at some hands like Jack 8, 10, 8, and 8, 7 suited. Just give them like 30, 40% weights
I would
each.
actually give more weight to this hands because people still, I
Yeah,
don't think
or
they
even more.
understand that
Yeah,
suited connectors are
yeah,
actually pretty bad to jam. We're
yeah.
just jamming them usually, and I actually would add like 8-7 suited and 7-6 suited like
Okay.
100% and just add some less percentages around here in this triangle. So like 70 and click. It's not rocket science. So yeah,
Yeah,
let's do it
yeah,
like
yeah.
this.
I think that's fine.
Okay, and yeah, if we are doing this, I just let Charlie recalculate this. Um, if the cutoff jams like this, we are calling 32.4% Nash-wise, and
But this
now
is
we,
without a
yeah,
bounty. This is
right,
just a
and
normal freeze out,
now we
right?
are changing our calling range. And Ben, maybe you say how you would adapt your big blind calling range when you're now facing the all-in of the cutoff when you are in a bounty tournament. And let's
I mean,
say
I
he
call
has
it
a start bounty.
when he has a start bounty.
Let's say he has a start bounty.
I think he had a bigger start bounty at this point in time. But if he just has a start bounty, then I would still call any suited queen, any suited king for sure. 10-9 off, Jack-9 off, Queen-9 off as well for sure. I think all the suited jacks as well, suited one gappers, suited two gappers as well. Um,
Suited two gappers
yeah,
there, so like 10-7 suited you
yeah,
call also? Okay.
they as well, yeah, of course. 10, I think also any suited 10, I would call any suited 10, yeah. 9-6 suited, 8-5 suited, 7-4, 6-3 suited as well. 9-5 suited as well, 9-8 off as well, 10-8, Jack-8, king. Well, I would probably call any king here. Yeah, any king.
Any king, alright.
Yeah, Jack-8, Queen-8 off. Yeah, I think that looks reasonable
That
to
looks
me.
really okay. Okay, so we're taking this, and yeah, let us look shortly on now how bad the sum of the combinations of the cutoff will be. So if he's adding especially those suited connectors, right, which we said from the start,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
those combinations are going to struggle now very, very big. Of course, your
exactly.
anyway
Yeah,
plus EV hands are getting even more plus EV. So if you are in the like top 10% of your range, you're making a lot of money. But the usual jamming, the usual part of the jamming range, which contains the suited connectors, you definitely should fold
yeah.
in this kind of spot. Okay. And now let's calculate.
And it's also interesting to see how better now a hand like King 6 off becomes or King 7
Yeah,
off.
yeah, right, right. So the king, especially all the ace and king highs, versus you have a very wide calling range, right? Because
Yeah.
not many players would call wide like this,
I mean,
but
it's 8 big blinds, so now if
yeah,
you consider at least a starting bounty, he might just jam effectively 6 big blinds, right? And that's how I approach bounty. It's always like, okay, I know he's jamming 8 big blinds, so I roughly have in mind what I'm calling against an 8 big blind jam. And let's say if he has a starting bounty, then his stack kind of decreases because there's additional dead money in the middle. So now I say myself, okay, well, he's probably jamming around somewhere effectively 6-7 big blinds, which is then actually very, very short. Um, of course, it depends on the size of his bounty, but and even if he has twice of the starting bounty, then he might just jam effectively 5 big blinds, and then I have to call off pretty much anything that has either a high card or is somewhat connected. So, yeah, but let's continue.
yeah, okay. Uh, so we wanted to know how big his bounty should be when we want to call 7-3 offsuit, right?
Yeah,
And what we are essentially doing is just calculating new odds. And we know that at Power Poker, for example, at the table you always see the full bounty. So you will have to divide this by 2, right? And if they're standing like 500, okay, then you can $250. So 2 start bounties. And in this case, for example, you would win 1 start bounty.
and then
And
Poker Stars is different, right? There
PokerStars is
is
different, yeah.
yeah, there's the amount displayed that you can win right away.
Right. Um, Right. So always take care if you're using programs, then you actually, when you snip out a certain situation in a lobby or at the table, at Party Poker, it's always the total bounty. So you divide this by 2, and at PokerStars, you actually double the number which you see at the table for the full information how much bounty the player has. So we had 360 players and it was around about 280 players left, or 300 players left. And now for this certain spot, we are using the chart. So we are opening a chart. Okay, we have no exactly calculation for the 360 players, but let's take like 400 players and calculate it down. So we had during an 80 of 360 players, so around about 80 players off, right? So this is around about, yeah, like 22%, something like this, off the field. So 78%, something like this.
Yeah.
Just short calculation in the head. And okay, so now
Maybe
we,
maybe we just give a quick introduction first. I mean, you have explained it very in depth, but just in case you don't know what we're doing here right now, this is a chart basically, and it's very important in bounty tournaments. The starting bounty, or let's say broken down in the amount or in the percentages of the starting stack, always depends on how many players a tournament has and how many players are remaining. So I highly encourage you, if you have no idea what we're doing here right now, watch the theory part where Nico is explaining how he's coming to these numbers. He's making a simulation in order to find out those numbers. And here we are using those numbers because we want to know, okay, how much of the bounty can we break down into chips? But we need to know how many players are left and how many players entered the tournament in the first place. So that's very, very important. If you want to analyze a hand, you need to make screenshots. You need to have those information at hand. I mean, of course, you can also play around. You can make a simulation by yourself. You can, based on your imagination, whatever, you can create your own hands and your own situation. But if you really want to analyze a real hand that occurred, then you need to have those information.
Yeah, right. So
So yeah,
yeah,
just as a side note.
yeah, thanks. This actually very important. So if you really want to calculate what would be the optimal decision or close to the optimal decision, then you need all the informations you can get, right? Of course, you can guess, okay, how many plays were left in the field roundabout, and how big was the field, and was the bounty start bounty 2 times the start bounty. I don't remember. Okay, so you can just roughly estimate what it would be, and if you're really interested in the correct solution,
Yeah,
then you actually should get all the information. So we have estimated around about like 20-25% of the field. So this would be like 300 or 320. So let's just take this value. So around about 34.5%
yeah.
of a start stack is now start bounty worth. And
So there's a number, 80%, and on the very top it says bounty plays pool remaining. Can you maybe just shortly explain what this 89% means?
sure. So when we start the tournament, the bounty prize pool remaining is 100%, right?
Yeah,
Nothing has been taken out. And when the field size decreases, so players are busting, then of course the bounty prize pool is decreasing as well because money is taken out. I win a bounty of a player and I take this money into my pocket, straight into my account. So it's not remaining in the tournament bounty prize pool. And the bounty prize pool will diminish with the
yeah.
players left, more turn.
Why is then the um go up please?
Yeah.
There it says in E start bounty in percentage start stack.
Yeah.
Why is that increasing?
Because we are recalculating the bounty price pool, which is remaining into our start stack. So if you remember, we paid a certain amount of money for the tournament, right?
Yeah,
And the bounty price pool was split in two parts, a part which can be won directly and a part which cannot be won directly. And let's say this was the $500 tournament, right? So we initially paid $500 and we can win $125 when we bust a player.
yeah,
Um, we had $500, right? So $250, which were going in the regular prize pool, and $125, which we cannot win directly. So these are lying inside of the prize pool. This will be added to my head when I bust the player, but I won't win this in the surgeon hand, right? And so we are starting with 33% if all of the players are remaining. And
okay,
now we say, okay, some players did bust and a certain amount of bounty prize pool is remaining. And I did explain in the theory video that this number here is decreasing exactly by the amount of how much the bounty prize pool did decrease. So if I say, okay, I have a 10% decrease in the bounty price pool, so 90% are remaining, I would have to multiply this number by 90%. So let's just take this number, 0.9092, something like this, times this, and we should get nearly the same. We should get the same number, right? Okay.
yeah, you did.
Okay, so this is how the values for the start bounty percent start stake are calculated.
Essentially, is it right to say the more players are busting, because actually I have heard people saying, well, there is going to be less and less money in the bounty prize pool, right? So people might think or misunderstand, well, then it's less worth to fight for. But actually, it's more important because the more players are going to bust, the less money is going to be in the prize pool. Thus, we also want to get, a piece of the cake. Is it right to say it in this way?
It's some kind of right to say it in this way. Think about it in another way. So you have a certain amount of chips. This amount of chips won't change inside of the tournament, right? We are starting with, let's say, 1 million chips inside of the tournament, and we have some money to play for these chips. And if I take half of the money out, there will still be 1 million chips remaining, but those 1 million chips will be now worth only half of the money. So if
Yeah,
I recalculate these chips and money, I would have to add more and more chips to get the same amount of money comparing to the start of the tournament. So a start
yeah.
bounty is worth more and more in chips, the more money I'm taking out of the bounty prize pool.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's 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 a good analogy. I think that's great. I really like to use analogies in order to understand things better. And I think also for the students, it's something you can hold on to and understand it better why the numbers are increasing here. Okay, so you said 22% of the field
Yeah,
is left. So
something like this.
this,
So I would say we are in roundabout in this area here.
okay,
Of the field remaining, and so let's just take 34.5%, right?
okay.
We
One,
can
one,
use
one,
something like this.
yeah, one important information here also, as you see, field size 250, then we have it for,
500,
I think for
600.
500, for 600. So if you have a tournament that has 550, guys, as you see, the numbers are roughly close, just like 35, 34%, 34%, point 0.5, point 0.7, point 0.8. So this is totally enough. It's not about hitting it perfectly. So if you have a tournament that has 700 players, then take a tournament that here in our chart, and what would be the next one? It's
The
a
next one
700.
would be, I think, 1K.
Yeah, then take 1K. I mean,
So
the
like one
numbers are
way.
still good. Like they're not perfect because as Nico also in the course was explaining, it's simply not possible to make 100% perfect assumptions, or let's say get 100% perfect results simply because a computer with that performance is not existing yet. So they're just approximations, but I think they're very good approximations. So don't be too cherry picking about it that you're like, but I have determined with 450. No, just take it from here and you will do very, very good. And in fact, you will be doing 99% better than your competitors because most of the people clearly have no idea how to approach bounty tournaments. And already only roughly knowing which numbers we need in order to find out our real odds, you will be crushing the field. Okay, so we have the 34.5%.
Yeah,
So we're going to work with that
let's just
number.
take it. So
Yeah,
we are taking this, and let's put it in here. And okay, now we know how much chips a start bounty is worth. So this would be a start bounty, and we would add just 100,000 was the start stack. So we would add 100,000 times the 34.5%. So we would add 34,000 chips for the case that the player has one start bounty. And
maybe you change the mid bounty. It's with bounty. Just
oh
a
yeah,
tiny
okay, sorry,
mistake. Yeah,
sure,
maybe for those who don't speak German, so they not
okay.
get confused. But okay, that's all right.
Okay, so this is the amount of chips we would add if you had one bounty. We can just multiply this now by 2. If the player had a double of a start bounty, so he had $500 total on his
So you
head,
won already one bounty from someone else.
actually 2. Actually, 2.
Ah, two. Yeah,
If you have
yeah,
one, then would be 375, right?
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, actually 2. So I multiply this by 2. If he had 1, so if he had $375, okay, then we multiply this by 1.5, and we got the chips for the
Okay.
case that he did one bounty. I don't know if you remember if he did win more than one bounty, or if he had a start bounty. I don't know. So we can just shortly look at the situation again. Do you remember?
Sorry?
Do you remember if the Play Untouchable 10 had the start bounty or more than a start
I
bounty?
think he had 2 times the start. I think it was
He
500.
had 500. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's take just this number, but we can
Um,
calculate new odds first.
yeah. I
So
would also recommend you guys doing such a worksheet really makes it easier for you because compared to a normal situation, you just need so many more information. So having them all at one place is going to simplify it for you so much more. And then you can save it. And in case you have a similar spot, you can just look at those numbers and use it for the future as well. Maybe we can even add such a worksheet where people just need to add the numbers to the course. I think that would be a great idea. Okay, so we have the new odds, which are?
yeah, we are calculating new odds, which are just stack which a player had, right? Small blind is inside. We are nine-handed, I think. 9 times the ante. The big blind is lying inside of the pot, and we are calling the stack minus the 7k big blind, which is already in the pot. So those are the odds which we had before we would add bounty, okay?
Yeah.
And now we are adding the chips for the bounty, which are standing actually. Okay, let's take the case where you had the
Okay.
double start bounty, which you did recommend, and these are our new odds. So we are calculating the new equity.
Maybe you just pull it down so
I
it's not.
pull it down,
Yeah.
and okay, I just do this. I do this here. So again, we are just adding everything together. 9 times the antes. Yeah. Okay. Big blinds. Stack minus 7k. And now we are adding the chips when he had a start bounty. So this would be the odds when he had a start bounty, and just shortly calculate the new equity. Okay, and unfortunately I have to type it in again for this one. Okay, so in this case, when you had $500 bounty total, then we need 26.2% equity.
Yeah.
And now we can calculate out of the range which you did estimate. Let me open the hierarchy again. This was the range which you did estimate, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I copied the range, and we now can use Equilab
Yep.
or any other equity program to calculate the resulting calling range. I have to add some commas. Yeah, I'm just putting in here. And if the new equity is 26%, then we are searching the range which has at least 26% versus the jamming range, right? So we are opening this window and we say, okay, now we want to know 26%, which are the combinations, and we can already see that we can call any two. So it's German, yes, it's random in English, okay. This is any two. So if we change the equity to what we had, 31%, then we get a different range. But you already see if he had a start bounty, so if he had the 250 total bounty, so we can $125 in this case, then we could actually nearly call a 73 offsuit. Okay, we cannot call 73 offsuit if he had a start bounty. And if he had any amount different from a start bounty, then we can call it.
All right, guys. So as you can see, as a rule of thumb, if there's somebody jamming and you're really far away from the bubble, and not ICM is not so much involved, and even if you're already in the money, the pie jumps are not so big yet. And here, even if we call it we lose, we still have a reasonable stack to continue. Um, One thing I would like to talk about in that particular spot as well is, and the question to you here, Nico,
Hmm.
what is your take on future game here in that spot? Because would you consider maybe skipping a slightly profitable call in order to maintain our stack? Like it also depends, of course, on the entire stack distribution on the table. How would you interpret the situation here?
In this special situation, I would actually call even wider because this is with the Poker Brothers TM the only player on the table which we do cover, and so our immediate dollar value of the stack, not our immediate dollar value, but the dollar which we can win immediately are only coming from those two players. And
Yeah,
so I would call very wide off here. Anyways, it's a any two spot which we found out, but even though I didn't understand exactly how the bounty value is working, I would call off very wide here because I'm not covering a lot of
yeah.
of the players on the table. So yeah.
That is this always the second factor you have to take into account when approaching bounty tournaments. Of course, the math behind we always has the highest priority because if it's just clearly plus EV, uh, there are very rarely going to be any reasons why we should skip that. But if we talk about those marginal plus EV, maybe break even, or marginal minus EV, you want to take that into consideration. Remember, if you're owner of my Terminal Masterclass, I talk about that a lot in my ICM course, where I explain people, okay, we have situations where it's going to be slightly profitable or slightly minus EV, then you want to consider future game. What are the benefits of becoming a bigger stack? What can happen if you're the short stack or if you're slipping into a mid stack? So here in that particular situation, we definitely want to call up wider, as you just said. We are barely going to cover anybody. The same goes vice versa. If you're in a situation where you cover everybody and you're in a marginal situation, and by losing, you would put yourself in a situation where you don't cover anybody at all anymore, or you are just barely covering anybody, then you should really consider if you really want to make the call and gamble for your very comfortable tournament situation or table situation where you can also hunt even more bounties in the future orbits.
Yeah, that's a good point. So if we let's consider we had 350k chips, and
Yeah,
this player had a start bounty, and let's say this player, and this player had like 4 times the start bounty. Then if we are giving up 50k, we are not covering him anymore, and maybe if we are losing 1, 2 smaller hands, we are not covering this and this player anymore, which have the way higher bounties. So
yeah,
we would actually at least think about if we want to call this
yeah,
player or not, right?
yeah,
Because we want to keep the situation that we are covering the players with the big bounties so
yeah,
we can hunt them, and
yeah.
they have to actually, if, like we did see in the hierarchy calculation before, they have to manipulate their ranges versus us. They have to be tighter because we are covering them. This is
That's
a
a
very
great
good.
point.
This is a very
That's
good
yeah.
situation for us. So
Yeah, that's an excellent point I was just about to mention as well. Keep in mind, if we are covering most of the stacks on the table, we can play more hands, we can open raise more, and also those players are supposed to play tighter against us, which means we get more walks, we get more first in spots from button, cutoff, small blind, which is very beneficial for us. Also then, if they rejam or three bet, we can also get it in lighter. So our entire situation is just so much better. It's not only about picking up the bounties potentially. It's also just about we can keep accumulating chips on average, right? It's similar to a situation when you're big stack on a funded table where you can apply a lot of pressure and people barely can't play any hands against you. So the same concept applies here as well, and you want to keep that in mind. So let's go to the next spot, all right?
okay.
Unless you want to say something as
No,
well to that
I think
spot.
we
Okay.
have discussed
Yeah.
this spot very good. And yeah, I have another situation at a final table this time. This is a $50 tournament, and we are opening pocket eights. We are 600, and I have the payout structure anywhere here. So this would be the normal payouts plus the bounties. My own bounty is $683, and yeah, this is the situation. And maybe Ben wants to talk about what you want to do here.
I definitely want to open race. and I definitely hate my life facing that all-in. In a normal freeze-out tournament, I would be very certain it's a fold. It's just his range should be on something like sevens and eights and better, and ace queen and better, and against that range we have a clear fold. Even though he's three-betting aces and kings occasionally, or most of the time, we still can't call it off. Um, with a bounty, and his bounty, it's a $50 tournament, you said?
Yeah,
So his bounty is 368. That means he already collected around, yeah, well, what do we say, like
yeah,
seven
like seven,
bounties?
like seven.
Yeah, seven bounties. So it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot. Definitely a very interesting spot to look into. We have been talking about that spot briefly. Of course, now I know the results, but I was very, very close. I would call nines probably with bounties involved and still four eights, but it's very close. But I think just let's look into the numbers.
Okay, so first of all, let's look at the calculation when we wouldn't have any bounty, so this would just be a normal freeze out. I think most of the players actually, hopefully not anymore since you have done the ICM calculations in the video, but I think most of the players actually calling eights here, and no matter what, if it's a bounty or not, right? And this is actually a very, very bad call. So we have the
Yeah.
situation here that I'm opening and he's rejamming, so those are the numbers. Let's see them again. Here we're opening 198k and he's jamming around about a bit over 2 million. So we're here. We did consider that he jams this range, which is blue, and part of the range, which is light blue, so he three bets aces and kings, and not always jams eights and sevens, and has a bluff inside of his range. And when he's doing this, we can call 10th plus. Okay, if we really, I wouldn't call 10s in this spot, to be honest, because my situation at table is very good. If this wasn't a bounty, right? Uh, because my situation at the table is very good. I think I have a good edge on the field, and I don't need to gamble off like 22 big blinds with a 10s call. I don't need the spot to be taken. But yeah, you can call 10s and 8s is a clear fold. And now you can look at the same situation with bounties involved, and here you're using ICMizer. So this is the spot with ICMizer. We are opening 198k. He's jamming.
Isomizer is great for final table spots, right? Because there it's possible for a computer to run the simulation based on 9 players, or in that instance, 6 players. So here we can um, find or get the results for that very spot, right?
Right, so if you want to calculate with bounties the final table, then you're using ICMizer. Actually, Hold'em Resources Calculator says that its beta should be able to calculate with knockouts as well, but I wasn't able to download the beta, it's just not working. So I have to use ICMizer, where you can use bounties as well. And yeah, this is the spot. So he is rejamming in this particular situation, this range. So we just took out kings. He has another bluff inside, and we did not wait here. So eights are jammed and sevens are folded. And if we consider this situation, our eights are still a fold, but remember the numbers which you are getting are price per percent change, and the difference is very huge between folding in a knockout scenario and folding in a regular scenario. So this is here around about 0.4 minus EV, and in a situation where there are no bounties involved, it's roughly 1.2% price per percent. So this is a huge difference, and still okay, it's a fold, but this is actually a way closer spot when you think
Yeah,
about this. So
yeah,
yeah, I did end up folding in game. I thought it would be closer. Of course, the numbers are depending on your estimations. For example, if the player is playing correctly, okay, in the case that there are no bounties whatsoever, or let's take the bounties, let's take the bounty spot, and let's just let him jam kings, okay, and he understands that he cannot bluff anything. Um, then we save this, and we
I wouldn't call it bluff. I would call it just the random factor
yeah,
where
okay, the
people just
randomness.
yeah, it's like I mean even what is ace queen? Is it the bluff? Is it value? It's also not really for value, right? Because against his calling range, he's also crushed with ace queen. So it's also some sort of a bluff actually.
Yeah, it's good.
I would just
That's
say
right.
where
But he
people
understands that he
have
cannot
has a
jam those
random
check suited
spaz or
as well.
whatever, like 1, 2, 3, 4% of the time.
Okay, I'm taking out eights as well because nah. It's he's
Yeah,
crying.
I
He's
to be
crying when you
honest,
have eights. So
I also see them flatting more frequently, those kind of hands.
uh, okay, I'm taking out eights as well, and recalculate the spot. And yeah, now it's getting even worse and worse. So if the player understands that he cannot just three bet his aces and kings and jams the rest, okay, then our combinations are actually getting worse and worse. So
Yeah.
I think the estimation is good that players tend to play their super nut range differently from the rest of the range, but this is actually a very big mistake which you are making at the final table if you are doing this and you have players on the table which are able to think about the situation, right? So if you
Yeah.
have three betting, they're just closing their eyes and wait till the hand is auto folded. Okay, I'm not playing versus a player who three bets in this situation as a random player who three bets in this situation as short as he has. He is just usually having aces and kings. Yeah, sometimes he has 8-7 suited, and then I got exploited, but usually it's just the nuts. And yeah, you can fold a lot of hands, and
Yeah.
I would have folded even faster eights if he three bets.
Yeah. I would also, guys, not be too much confused about those numbers here. So it's not about, again, hitting the perfect range here. I mean, if you call in that spot tens, even as you have seen, in reality, people probably call aces, kings. Tens is becoming a snap call here, and nines is rather close. So if you call, let's say, nines plus, ace queen suited plus, you're good, you're good. But in these ICM situations, you definitely want to avoid making those big mistakes
Yeah.
like calling off ace queen off, calling off pocket eights, in a freeze out tournament, even calling off nines or ace queen suited, which are just clear folds. So keep that in mind, and that you're not too harsh to yourself and oh my god, I did a minus 0.6 mistake. I mean, come on guys, just see it. Okay, it was close, you know which are the snap calls, which are the snap folds, and that's totally enough. In poker, and especially in an ICM environment, ICM situations, it's not about playing the perfect game. It's about making less mistakes your competitors. And if you just play a rock solid ICM game on final tables, you're crushing. This is literally the perfect game. And here and there, making small mistakes is reasonable. And there will also happen a big mistake. Then it's about checking it and not making it again. This is how it works. Don't be too hard to yourself in these spots.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a good point. You won't be even in this spot where the ranges are very close. You won't be able to solve this fully, right? And
yeah,
and additionally to the three bet spot, right? When I'm saying I'm falling like 100% to the three bet, of course there will be players which own you, so this is not the perfect solution to every player at the final table, right? There will be players who are just free betting relentlessly, 9 suited, 8-7 suited, something, and you're getting owned and you're just falling because you're thinking, okay, it's always aces and kings because the population only three bets aces and kings. Um, so this is like Ben said, this is not a perfect solution. We don't have all the informations, and don't be too harsh to yourself if you're calling tens. Okay, this is a totally fine call in most of the situations, and
yeah,
sometimes it's not. So this is just how the game goes.
yeah.
Okay.
Great. All right, guys. So as you have learned in our today's practice video, you can analyze hands by yourself if it's on a final table with the help of IC Miser 2. And if the field size is bigger than, or let's say more players than the 9 players are remaining, then you should use our chart, right? Yeah, exactly. Here we have it. And in the next video, we are also going to cover spots when, let's say, we are covered by other players and we're opening from EP or MP. What hands should we push? What hands should we open raise with? And also the situation calling against bounties or players we cover from rather earlier positions, button, cutoff, small blind. So where we also have to take into consideration that there are players left to act, and also what are we going to do and how can we calculate that when they are going to all in. It's going to be a bit more complicated. We have to make more assumptions, but I think the approximations we are going to make will help you a lot to solve those spots in game. Not to solve them, of course, directly in game, but they will give you a good orientation how you can approach those spots in game. All right, guys.
Okay.
See you in the next video. Nico.
Yeah. See you in the next video.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye
Ciao,
bye.
guys.